Hello, this is the first of a project I'm calling 52 games. I'm going to make one game a week for 52 weeks. This game is called Wastin Time. So the idea for this game was to capture the feeling of regret of having wasted time, but also kind of using humor in the tasks that you consider that you're wasting time on and showing how ridiculous that can be sometimes. So I'm going to go over three prototypes that were created as part of this project and show you the final iteration. So the first one here involved a deck of cards, a big deck of cards. There's 100 cards here that I hand produced, which took a lot of time, which was definitely a lesson that I don't want to spend so much time making first prototypes. So the basic game was, like 4 people could play, any number really, but 4 is probably the right amount. You get 2 cards in your hand. So they have a title, Dinner with Coworkers, Learn How to Think Faster. And they have a time period, so 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., etc. And then points, 1 point, 2 point. So you'd have these in your hand. They'd be secret. This was actually a real-time game, so there's no turns. So you would decide which one to put down in your play area. So I would probably say, okay, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., I'm going to learn how to think faster. I'm going to put that in my play area. And this one would remain in my hand. So then I could, at any point in time, draw another card. And then I would have to do the same thing with these, decide which one I want to play. Another thing I could do is I could say, well, I don't want to put this one down, maybe because it actually conflicts with that time period. So I could take this card that I don't want, and I could just throw it into the middle of the table. And then when I draw a card, I could take it from here, or I could take it from any of the cards in the middle of the table. And in practice, this area ended up looking kind of like that. So it's pretty chaotic. In the end, this wasn't a good game because it was too difficult to read. Let's see if I can build up. It was too difficult to read another player's play area to figure out, that's a good combo, to figure out what cards they needed. Because the idea was that you're throwing cards in the middle here that another player can't use. But it was just all too complicated, too difficult to read. There wasn't any color. This was 24 hours of time, and I mean, way too many cards for a first prototype. So this was kind of a waste. It didn't really, there's no decisions to make and really low player interaction. So the second iteration, I tried to improve on that. So this is a similar idea, but there was only 8 hours, and one of the big improvements was there was color on the card. So this would be a morning card. It's kind of orange, coffee with the CEO. And it's colored based on the time of day. So orange was morning, midday was like sky blue, and then evening or afternoon was dark blue. So the gameplay was similar, where you would draw a card. The big difference was if I wanted to discard a card to the center, this is actually a very good card. It's 1 hour time for 2 points is the best exchange ratio. This one is like 1 point per hour. So let's say I didn't want that one. I could put it on one of the stacks. So I could put it over here. And it's the same idea, but when a player draws a card, they could draw it from here or the top of any of these stacks. So like this, it might end up looking kind of like that. So I can only take this one. I can't take the one underneath. Yeah. And then once you fill in enough time, that's good. I could fill in my day, that conflicts, put over there. And then once I fill up enough, I have 8 hours of time filled up, or however many, I think I have a lot of points, I could take one of these cards up here. And so this one has the most points, so I'm going to probably take that one. And I take that, the cards on top just kind of go out, and then that goes in my play area, and then I have 5 extra points. So the idea was that you're kind of racing to take the best card up here, and hopefully you have enough points to win the game. Yeah, so that was the idea. This was definitely an improvement. I think having less amount of time, only 8 hours in the game, and limiting kind of where cards can be played instead of just chaotically on the table was an improvement. Made it a little interesting. But ultimately, this wasn't a good game either. It was too random. It was kind of, you'd always just take the card that had the most points. So like here, there would be no real decision in my mind. This is just a better card. That's 1 hour time for 2 points versus, there's more time here, but it's less points. So you'd always kind of decide just to take the most points, and then you would just hope that you got a good card that would fit into your schedule somehow. So it was still pretty random. It was a little bit easier to read another player's play area due to the colors and the limited amount of time. There's no AM, PM indicator anymore, which was good. but it was still just too difficult overall to really make a decision based off another player's game state. So I kind of ditched this whole concept at this point, and with only a few days left in the week, I switched to something that was much different. So instead of indicating hours in a schedule like this, that you're filling up a schedule, instead I had these chips that each represent an hour. So the player would have, would have a bunch of these chips in their hand, 8 chips for 8 hours in the day, and each day is a round. So I'll put these over here for now. Each round you would kind of flip over 2 of these cards. So at the start of the day, flip over 2 cards. And so all the players would see these. And so there's 2 cards here, but we're really focused on this one this is the first task in the day. The day is going to have 3 tasks. So you kind of see 1 task ahead is the idea. And you'll notice that these cards have, there's a type at the top. I was going to use that for scoring, but I didn't get into that yet. So there's a type, and then the description, learn how to blink faster, sleep's important. And then there's a point value at the bottom. And then there's also the card, the kind of traditional playing card icons on these cards. So you'd have these, it's basically poker hands. So you'd have a poker hand that you draw, and the idea is you would want to get the best poker hand using the cards indicated on here and using your hand of cards. So these are like virtual cards on the table that you could use to build a hand. You want to have the best hand to score these 5 points. And you could use the hour tokens. You could spend any number of hour tokens on a task. So for this one, maybe I'd want to spend two hours on this task. And what that would mean is I could take any 2 cards. I'm not really paying attention here, but I could take any 2 cards and discard them, and then draw to replace. So then using that, I would try and build a poker hand using these cards as well. And I'm not going to be able to do this on the camera here, but there's a pair. So a 7 and a 7. But in this case, actually, they're both 7 of hearts, so that wouldn't work. But you get the idea. And then whoever had the best poker hand would take the 5 points. This one would shift down, and then a new task would be drawn. You do the same thing. The idea with the future task is I could, see what's coming ahead. So I could see that there's maybe a king and a king here, and maybe I had a king in my hand, so I could save that king and then get a 3 of a kind or whatever. So you could do the same thing with this card over here. But you'd play that card, and then you'd play that card, and then the day's over. You would probably have spent all your hours at that point. And then you'd play maybe 5 days, I figured, to see who the winner is. And that was the basic idea. This was a big improvement, because I think just the fact that you'd have these chips that represent hours that were in your hand would kind of increase attachment to the idea of time being valuable. And then having to spend these tokens on, invest them in these tasks to try and get the points, kind of fit my theme pretty well. So that was the final game. I'm happy with the result. It's not a total success, but moving from these prototypes to this, I think this was definitely an improvement. And using poker hands, which is a kind of proven game mechanic, for that conflict resolution was probably a smart thing to do, because that wasn't, I was mostly interested in sort of the higher level play, and sort of representing or like increasing the attachment to time, I guess. So yeah, that was the first project. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think.